Okay, so let's get started with this COVID. There were a lot of questions, a lot of comments related to that. I'm going to mention a few of them here. Okay, here's the first one. First says, according to the Centers for Disease Control, I'm sorry, this is not a comment someone made, this is out of the news. It says, Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, just 53% of Americans are fully vaccinated. Majority of people are not, okay? Or they are, but just barely, okay? Just a little over 50%. The vast majority of the people who have become seriously ill in recent months have not been vaccinated. Okay, the coronavirus vaccines are highly effective at preventing serious illness and death. Is this propaganda or is this for real? Okay. More than 654,000 Americans have died from complications related to COVID-19, according to Johns Hopkins University, and more than 40 million have been infected. Okay, so those are the statistics. Do you believe them? Do you not believe them? I don't know. I know that there's a tendency, human nature, to jack up the numbers, especially if there's a monetary incentive. Okay, you send money if the person dies because of COVID. You don't send money if the person dies of cancer. So, that kind of thing. So I don't know. I don't know if these numbers are real or not. Okay. In his speech Thursday, Biden also called out governors for playing pandemic politics by resisting mask mandates and downplaying the power of vaccines. Okay, so the U.S. government is concerned, especially the current government, Biden's government. They're worried about elections, as always. Politicians are wondering what effect the prolonging of this COVID thing is going to have on their election abilities, on their ability for success, for being reelected, okay, the incumbents. Okay, here's one fellow. He says, how do you justify the vaccines are the correct approach using the majority argument? You said 90% doctors are in favor of vaccines. How something works is objective in its nature. That's true. And it absolutely does not matter how many people say that the sun revolves, I guess he meant, around the earth, for that matter, because that is not how it works. And again, he's right on that. Again, I got another message from YouTube. Let me know if something goes wrong. And maybe the most important part is that you already have natural immunity to that. Well, you had it until the shot. Yeah, I agree that I may have had already natural immunity. The issue is that I didn't get the shot because I'm trying to protect myself from any disease. I got the shot because I'm going to be traveling, okay? And I don't want the hassle that goes along with people who do not get vaccinated, okay? I had traveled to Iceland and they put me in jail. I was there for 5 days until they let me out. I was in a hotel. They fed me great, but I missed 5 days of my vacation, and I didn't like that too much. So, I'm trying to avoid that hassle. And again, it's because of all these measures that they put out there. Okay. Okay. Another fellow says, okay, why would anyone say that they did not take the jab when they did? Illogical. I mentioned that comment someone made that maybe a lot of people who have taken the vaccine tell their buddies, maybe that they didn't. And again, that works both ways. It could work in that direction as well, because a lot of people might say, just in case I'm going to get the vaccine, I don't believe, but just in case I'm going to get it anyways. And then what he's going to tell his buddies. And she said, no, I don't get the vaccine, But again, we don't know if that's true or not. We don't know what people have out there, okay? Says, especially with all the social pressure, it would be more likely that someone would admit they took the jab when really they did not. I would like to see your vaccine card, for I do not believe you have taken the jab. Show us the proof, okay? Okay, I'll show you the proof. Here's my proof, okay? The little red book, okay? It's really let me get the page where it says, here it is. This is the little yellow book, okay? It shows that I got the vaccine, what was it, on a few days ago? I don't see the date on here. I hope it shows up somewhere. Anyways, I got to take this little booklet when I travel because I don't want to be hassled. So yeah, I did get the vaccine. I have no reason to lie. I have no reason to tell anyone otherwise. In fact, I would have lied in the opposite direction. I would have said, "Look, I didn't get the vaccine, guys. Don't think I was stupid enough to get it." No, the reason I got it is I'm going to be traveling. That's the only reason. Okay. Anyways, yeah, I do have proof that I got the vaccine. Anyone who I'm sure the authorities where I go will ask me to provide proof. Okay? And here's another comment. Really, it's from a news article. It said, EU budget battle looms as economy lifts out of crisis. In the 19 states, Europe, right, that use the euro single currency, the average debt is expected to reach what? 102% of GDP at the end of the year. So all these governments here, they have overdrawn, and what they owe now is above what they produce, and then have to that has to click in your head that something is not right. And the question is, if now they're going to go with the delta and later on with the mu or whatever it's called, will we recover from, not from the vaccine, forget about the vaccine, the issue, will we recover economically from all these measures that these people are taking? Okay, and the U.S. doesn't stay behind. Here it is. It says 2 years of massive unemployment. This is a comment someone made. Will double all previous raises in debt. Again, I think he's right. And the perfection of this communism is on its downhill roll into perfecting our form of socialist fascism. Whoa. Big words, they're mighty words, okay? The only economic gain will continue to be the political class and their business entities of war and emergencies. Business entities. The pursuit of happiness has been strangled by this present 2-year emergency, and which has no end in sight. Okay? This is the Five Eyes of the Anglophone nations. Five Eyes refers to several countries, English-speaking countries that work together: Australia, New Zealand, Canada, UK, and the United States. And well, he just rants about this, and I guess he's got this vision that it's a totalitarian system. It looks something like this, comes out of an article that says Biden may put future stimulus checks on autopilot, no vote required. Talk about communism, and it makes you kind of wonder what is happening out there. Is the United States becoming a totalitarian / communist system like this fellow is suggesting? And I'm sure that if you ask a lot of people out there, they might say it is, especially the people on the ultra right. They might say, oh, we've veered too much to the left. And one of the things that compels that, is China. See, China is doing more or less well at this point in time economically, and the United States is not doing as well. And this is a problem for the world because China's catching up economically and militarily, right? And the United States is not advancing as fast, so here we have China catching up. And one of the problems that causes is that the United States takes economic measures against China because China subsidizes many of its industries, and especially the United States accuses it, whether it's true or not, accuses the government of China of subsidizing many of its industries. And what does that do to the United States? Well, it forces the United States to subsidize some of their industries, especially agriculture, to compete on the world level. And that's communism. Subsidies is not free market. And so the question is, the United States prides itself in being a free market economy, but here you have other countries that decide to subsidize some of their products, and it compels the United States to subsidize some of their products, forcing the United States to become a little more communistic, socialistic, right, and less capitalistic, free market. And so keep that in mind. Are we saying that subsidizing, communism, socialism is more powerful than capitalism, than free market, laissez-faire? Are communist countries or like China or other countries that subsidize their industries compelling the United States to become a little more communistic? Okay, so keep that in mind. I mean, can we have a totally free market system, or will governments cheat? Okay, so that's one thing to keep in mind. Fellow says England was the last empire. I'm sure there were plenty of folks in those days that said England would be the last empire and the U.S. will never be an empire. The U.S. is the center of the current empire, okay? And as we see it is collapsing from the outside in, so the U.S. will be the last to fall. We are witnessing the collapse of Europe, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, okay? Sure, there's going to be a war with China in the next 6 years. And after the war, the U.S., okay, the U.S. will break up sometime in the 2030s. Then the empire baton will go to China, empire being the one with the most money. So I guess the United States will become a little province, a little state of China, of the big empire of China. Is this true? Is this what's going to happen? The United States is going to collapse after 2030 and become just another little tiny fourth world country, part of the empire of China? Is that what's going to happen? I have doubts. I think that if there is a war, that's the end of all of us. This war is not going to be anything like wars in the past. And the other thing I have to say here is that, the United States is the last empire, and it's unlike what happened in the 19th century with England. Okay, there was no global economy. There was no, we didn't have the power we have today militarily, right? So a lot of those things make a difference. Do you really think the United States is going to allow China to catch up with it militarily, or will it preempt, China? Will it have a, what is it called? False flag? Create a false flag to engage while it's still ahead? What do you think is going to happen? Do you really think this fellow's right? There's going to be a war, and they're going to fight a little bit. They're going to give each other a black eye, and then the United States is just going to fall behind, and then China's going to pass and become the new empire. I don't think so. Not at all. Okay. Anyways, here's Mr. Biden, and he had a good talk with Mr. Xi from China, Premier of China. Okay, and says U.S. President Joe Biden talked with his Chinese counterpart, urging they ensure that competition between the two powers does not become conflict. Okay, they're worried about the economic competition. The battle for the dollar, I guess, or for the renminbi or whatever, is going to spill over into military action. Okay, and so he gave him a call to say, hey, kind of look eye to eye through the phone. Saying, we don't really want this to convert into some kind of war, do we? And so they had a little talk there. Who knows what they talked about? All you can do is speculate. But yeah, there are some tensions, especially the United States thinks that China is unfairly competing. And again, does this compel the United States to also implement measures which are not free market? Okay, that's what you got to think about. Okay. Another fellow says, just because I say we are witnessing the extinction of our current forms of government, right, does not mean communism will prevail. Okay, technically our form of government is representative with mix of socialism, Marxism. Okay, so there is a little bit of communism in there, isn't it? I mean, education, health, social security, there's a little bit of socialism. In fact, when you go to college, they talk about a mixed economy. They don't, meaning it's got a little bit of both. Free market, and some things have to be done to help people, or at least that's what the governments, really all the governments on earth ended up with. I think every government on earth has a mixed economy. There is no net pure capitalist economy. There's no pure, in fact, nothing close to it, to communism or socialism. They're all capitalists. They're all mixed economies. Even North Korea is a mixed economy. Cuba, for sure, I've been there. It's a mixed economy. You have this black market that works very well, and then the government says, look, if you don't interfere in politics, we won't interfere in your daily black market out there. And so the government looks the other way. As long as you don't get involved in politics and don't tell the government what to do politically and leave the rulers in place, then they have no problem. Go ahead and do whatever you have to out there on the streets, survive any way you can. That's how it works. So there is no free market economy, and there is no socialist economy. All countries on earth today have mixed systems. Okay, now some people see that as communism, other people say it's too much capitalism. They're all mixed economies. Okay, and governments know they can no longer borrow endlessly. Yeah, but that's what they're doing. That's how they're solving these problems. Okay, they're borrowing, they're creating money. Okay, and so they have gone along with the Great Reset. Mr. Klaus Schwab there, who invented this Great Reset, he says after this COVID is gone, this is our chance to redo the economy. We go back to a communistic really system, and I guess that's what he's thinking about. He says in a few years, I think by 2030 or whatever, you will have nothing, you will own nothing, and you will be happy. That's what he says. Okay, that's the Great Reset. Because it is authoritarian and they desperately want to hold on to waning power, it is doomed to failure. In other words, the powers that be, the New World Order people, the Illuminati, whatever you want to call them, there's people out there, billionaires, they control the economy, and they want to continue holding on to their world, to their power. And they're not going to allow the masses, the poor people, to take over, their privileges. Okay, that's what people have in mind. Not only this one, but a lot of people think like that. We will see a new form of government post-2030s. I think we won't see any kind of government after 2030. I think we won't be around to see anything, okay? The extinction event for government is already in place. in play. Okay, some people think that we're just transitioning into what Marx originally said, a world government that eventually ends up in anarchy, meaning not, again, the guy with the hand grenade, anarchy meaning no government, because government itself will cease to exist. That's what Marx proposed. He said it goes through communism, it doesn't go through capitalism. Okay, I don't think it'll ever happen. I used to think it did, but no longer, no way. I think after the economies collapse, especially the U.S. economy, it's the end of the world for all of us. So all we can do is prop up the U.S. economy, pray, that it doesn't fall. Do whatever you can to help the United States economy stay afloat, because not if, but when it collapses, it's going to be the end of us. Okay, what a Chinese empire, this big empire that's getting ahead of everyone. What is it concerned about? Well, it's concerned about something else. It's concerned about the fact that they're having more effeminate men. Now, is that a worry for an empire? And the article that Times came up with this week says, China has begun to worry about the manliness of its men. Okay? Last week, the Chinese authorities banned effeminate men from appearing on TV and instructed broadcasters to promote revolutionary culture. Okay, meaning macho, right? And so the article goes on to say that past empires were always worried about their effeminate men, which, according to the article, always were around. Okay, and so you can't build an empire, according to the article, on effeminate men. You need macho men to do it. I guess type A men out there, and so now they're worried about that. And it turns out this is all over the world, right? We have it. Effeminate men everywhere on planet Earth. Just about every country has it. Even those that deny it, like Iran and some of the Arab countries, they do execute people there for being homosexual. Not being, but for carrying out homosexual acts. And Iran has executed a couple out there, 2 or 3 people, maybe more, I don't know. But I know they've executed a few. And so is this happening all over the world? Will that impact in any way the collapse of the economy? Does that have anything to do at all with the economy? Does it have anything to do with what I propose? Genetic diversity, loss of genetic diversity. Inbreeding leads eventually some species to end up with homosexuality. Okay, that's my general argument on that. Okay, here's another comment. Fellow says, if you want to increase the birth rate, no problem. Increasing the birth rate is so easy. Just take all women's privileges away. Boom, problem solved. He wants to go back to the old days where you could slap a woman, and put her in the right place. You know what I mean? If I do that to my wife, she'll kill me. So I don't even dare to do that anymore. Yeah, I don't know if we're going back to the good old days, if you can call them good old days. Was that good? Was that bad? Did we make progress, or did we go back in time by allowing women to be our equals? How did we allow that to happen? Well, I think it was inevitable. I think there was no way to avoid it, and so it's not a question of whether it's good or bad. Really, I don't look at it that way at all. I look at it. It was inevitable. It happens. We have it. Live with it. Okay, that's all we can say. I think you can't turn it back to the old days. What do you want to turn it back to? The days of Greece, where man, the head of the house, right, the patriarch, he had power of life and death over everyone in the house. His sons, his daughters, his wife, the slaves, the whole works. Now that was power, okay? Because he was responsible for his clan, right, so to speak. So if someone did something, he said, I'm going to punish him. And if necessary, he was authorized to kill that person in the household. That's how much power a man had. Should we go back to those days? Well, I think a lot of women would oppose that. And remember, about 50% of the population in the world are women. So I don't think they're going to vote for that. Okay. So, you may be out of time if you think in those terms. Maybe you should join the Taliban in Afghanistan or something. Okay, you should really read The Shock of the Old by David Edgerton. It's relevant to your theory about the transition from industry to services. Edgerton points out that the history of technology is all wrong, including the aforementioned transition. Ooh, I don't know about that. So I looked up Mr. Edgerton, and he wrote this book called The Shock of the Old, and The Guardian just has from Great Britain, has a little comment, okay, on it, did a little analysis, says Edgerton points out an obvious but underappreciated truth. Invention is not the same as utilization. In other words, he makes a distinction between invention and innovation. Okay, in the 1960s, great chunks of government money went into Concorde, but railways, a 2-century-old technology, now carry millions of people each month, while supersonic passenger jets carry none. Okay, so we're still using old technology, and that's what's important, and not the fact that you invented something new which nobody uses. Okay, that's the general argument. For consumers, falling prices of goods invented long ago, such as washing machines, matter at least as much as anything new. Even mobile phones are used mainly for talking, possible on landlines a century ago. Okay, so that's the argument. And all I can say is this fellow says that this transition is not correct. I don't know, I have a different view, and this is my view, okay? Here's the global decline of manufacturing, and I think those numbers speak for themselves. Okay, you can see that every country essentially has come down as far as a percentage of manufacturing of their specific economy. We're talking about the most important economies on the planet, and they've all come down, okay? So right now we have a problem with manufacturing, that it's being replaced by services. And I don't think we can revert this trend anymore. Okay, I think agriculture was replaced by manufacturing. Manufacturing is now being replaced by services. And that transition is there. The numbers are there. If you don't believe it, or Edgerton doesn't believe it, well, I don't know what to say. You know, I'm just saying those are the numbers. The numbers are that every country on the planet is moving from manufacturing to services. What do I mean by that? I mean that the economies, the gross domestic product of each economy of each nation is becoming, the bigger percentage is becoming services, because they're all imitating the advanced nations, which already are there. The 85% of the US economy, of the European economy, of the Japanese economy is services now. They do services, and only about 15% is manufacturing, and anywhere from 15 to maybe 19, and you got 1% of agriculture. That's how it's divided. The labor force and GDP. And so, yeah, this transition has already happened. If you were born in the 1980s, you already were born in a world of services that started becoming more and more services and less manufacturing. That transition is already there. So I don't know. I'm not sure Edgerton argued that. Maybe this fellow interpreted it wrong, but for sure, that's not the case. Okay, here we have another final one issue. It says, what about massive sustained storage of foodstuffs? He's saying, what about, because I'm saying that the absence of food is what's going to cause our extinction. The absence of food is going to occur because manufacturing companies, agricultural companies, right, that produce and distribute food will no longer have an incentive to do it if the global economy collapses, meaning money is no more. Nobody will accept money. Okay, and again, that's a long story, but that's the general idea. And so this fellow says, well, what about the foodstuffs that governments are storing underneath the ground or wherever? Okay, that's what his argument is. Says by elite government agencies, they have been preparing for human extinction events for a long time, several decades maybe. Okay, essentially for the elite subculture alone. Could that provide a reasonable conceptual bridge to a devastated human economy and a newly created local and then regional government endorsed economies? And all I can show you is there's several arguments there. And I'm going to show you the biggest storage facility on the planet, okay, and of food. Okay, it's a refrigerator, big warehouse that's turned into a refrigerator, the biggest refrigerator on Earth. It's in the state of Washington. And it's known as the Polar Way because that's the street on which it's on. And it's a cold storage facility located in Washington where it dominates the northern landscape. Okay, it is both the largest refrigerated warehouse and the largest automated freezer on Earth. Okay, the warehouse has an area of blah blah blah. Okay, says all that. It says facility is capable of storing about 350 million pounds of frozen food. Okay, an average human eats anywhere between 4 and 5 pounds of food per day. So these 350 million pounds would feed 90 million people one day. That's how much food is stored in this warehouse, which is the largest warehouse on Earth. Okay, I want you to look at the numbers here, the percentages, the ratios. Okay, and right now the ratios are not very favorable. How much food do you think the world stores wherever, underneath the ground, above the ground, in storage facilities, and so on? You know, you had the situation, another communistic situation, where first Reagan, and then since then, many times, it's happened many times, happened in 2016, 2018, it's already happened, happened in 2019 as well, where cheese has been overproduced by the people who have cows. You know, they milk the cows, and if they don't store that milk in some way, it rots. And so they turn it into cheese because it lasts longer. And even that is not consumed fast enough, and they don't know what to do with it. And so the government buys it, subsidizing the dairy industry. And partly because, you know, like countries like China may buy a lot one year and then they don't buy enough the next year for political reasons or for whatever reasons. And suddenly, you know, these dairy farms, they produce too much milk, too much cheese. What do we do with it? We don't have enough consumers. Who are we going to sell it to? The Klingons? And so they say, okay, what do we do now? And the government buys it, puts it in storages. And today, one of the solutions they've given that is to give it to pantries, people who you know, give food to the poor and so on. But even that's not enough to consume all that cheese. And so the question is, you know, how long do we store food for people? That's one issue. The other issue is that if the global economy collapses, especially the U.S. economy, are you going to have access to that food that is being stored somewhere once money is no more, once everybody's running for their lives? You know, do you know where they're storing all that food? That's one issue. And the other one is, even if you knew, are you close by to it? Can you go in there and break the doors down with a hatchet? And then you have the issue of, you know, those people who are in charge of those food. They're probably going to take that food first before you get there. Okay, so there's a lot of issues you got to consider when you talk about storing food. Okay, it's not like oh, there's enough food stored there for many years, and if the whole world collapses and there's no food, the government will come and feed me, or I can go there and serve myself. You know, you better find out something about that. Okay, if you're interested in the subject.